Hi, my name is Mark Hefner. I'm the training coordinator here with the Johnstone Supply Training Center. And today we're going to be looking at the Ecobee Smart Thermostat Premium Edition. All right, so we have our Ecobee Smart Thermostat Premium Edition here. The Premium does come with an extra room sensor that you can place in troublesome rooms that don't heat or cool as well as the rest of the house. Again, since this is a smart thermostat, you do need to have red and common connected. It has to be a powered thermostat to work correctly. There's no batteries for these. They just have to be wired into the system. When you do power on the thermostat, it's going to take you through some install steps, things like setting the date and time. It's even going to look at what wires you connected to it. Is it going to run as a heat pump system? Is it going to run on gas heat? It has options for oil heating or even geothermal if you need to set it up for that as well. It's able to do that. So once you get through all those things, you can also connect the Wi-Fi. You can set up your app with the thermostat as well. And finally, you'll get to the home screen here where you'll be able to start changing the temperature for the thermostat. And if you push the 3 bars over here, you can actually start to get into the settings on the little gear cog over here on the right-hand side. There's still some extra steps you can do. You can register the system as well. That'll allow it to display things like the weather. You can just tell it what mode you want it to be in. But the first thing I want to talk about is Eco Plus. The default is for this to be on, and this is the system trying to learn when you're home and when you're away, and it will try to adjust the temperature to save you money there. For most purposes, I will typically disable this. However, if people want it, it is there for them. So the Ecobee Premium does also come with a room sensor, and there are some mounting options to either put it on a wall or a shelf. When you actually set up the thermostat, it'll have you set this up as well. It's pretty easy to connect, but you'll be able to see here in the settings that it is connected and reading a temperature also. It'll use that to help you deal with those troublesome rooms, of course. You can also set a schedule on here. It's pretty intuitive: sleep, home, the day you want to change. So you could just click through those settings and change the time and what you want it to do for each time. The nice thing is it allows you to copy a schedule off a certain day and apply it to other days of the week. So the scheduling is still pretty straightforward. Your comfort settings, you're able to set it for when you're home, when you're away, and when you're sleeping. This really kind of participates with the schedule as well. But you can set your desired temperature and whether the fan's going to be auto or on. So we can save that. And this one's kind of interesting to me. It's vacation. You can tell it when you're leaving for a trip. You'll push the plus button in the top right. You can tell it when you're going to depart and when you'll be back and what you want it to be set to while you're away, either for heating or cooling or even both. You can have it set between a set temperature and the minimum fan runtime in minutes and hours. The next thing on here is the reminders and alerts for this thermostat. You'll be able to set preferences, and this is everything from maintenance to the filter. If you have a UV lamp, low and high temperature alerts, all these things can be set up here pretty easily to actually let you know. And this will work in coordination with the app as well. So this would be really great for you as the installer to set some of these on here so they can have a reminder to get their filter changed or for their next service, of course. There's also some general preferences. They can start setting heating ranges and cooling ranges. They can name their thermostat, screen brightness, things like that. How long you want it to hold an action when you change temperature. This has to do with the scheduling of the thermostat. Do you want it to hold an action for 2 hours or until the next scheduled activity, or decide at time of change? So different ways to break that down. So while you're in the general settings here, you'll actually see another button for settings. So you're within settings, within settings. It's like setting inception. You start getting into here, we're looking for installation settings specifically, and we're actually going to look at thresholds. Equipment is where you could just adjust, of course, what type of system this is, heat pump or gas heat. But we're going to look at thresholds right now. And you'll start to see things like auto heat and cool, where you can just adjust the temperature and the thermostat will switch to the mode it needs to be in. The minimum temperature difference between heat and cool, how big of a threshold you want there, so it's not short cycling between heating and cooling quickly. You can configure staging, it'll default to automatically. I would probably just leave it there. There's also a setting in here for the auxiliary savings optimization. If you have electric heat strips, the thermostat will not energize them until the set point is 2.9 degrees above is the default. You can change it up to 3.2 or down if you want to. This is just another energy savings thing, trying to keep your heat strips from turning on too frequently. There's also a max heat outdoor temperature. So this will be using the weather that it gets when you register the thermostat. And so if the temperature outside is 45 degrees or greater, it will not bring on your heat strips, or emergency heat as we call it sometimes. And again, this is just trying to save you money from using your heat strips too often. There's a compressor minimum cycle off time. They recommend 300 seconds. You can turn it down or up if you need to, just to keep the compressor from cycling too much. There's also a compressor minimum outdoor temperature. I have seen this default at 30 degrees before, which means that if it is colder than 30 degrees outside and your system is a heat pump, your compressor will not run below 30. So you'll definitely want to change this down to match weather conditions in your area, so your compressor will still run even when it is colder than normal outside. There's also an AC overcool max setting. This actually has to do with humidity. If you're dealing with high humidity, you can let the thermostat continue to run to draw more moisture out of the air for you. There's auxiliary minimum on time and compressor minimum on time. It's the same thing, it's just that when the compressor or auxiliary heat strips come on, they'll run for at least 5 minutes, which is the default. There's a temperature correction in here in case the thermostat starts to get out of whack and isn't reading temperature correctly anymore, as well as a humidity correction that'll do the same thing. And there's also a thermal protection program on here, checking temperatures between sensors, especially when you have a thermostat as one sensor and a room sensor as another. I typically leave this disabled. And then lastly, an installer code, you can change it so the homeowner cannot mess with some of these settings by enabling that. So after the installation settings, there are still other settings on this thermostat. A lot of them have to do with system monitoring or Amazon Alexa, or your Wi-Fi, date and time, things like that. So overall, this is the general settings you can get into with your thermostat. Those threshold settings really can change a lot of different ways this thermostat operates. This thermostat has a lot of control over your system, so you want to be careful and make sure you're not just randomly pushing buttons. You could put some things kind of out of whack on your system if you're doing that. But overall, this thermostat should be ready to run for you. Again, you can schedule it, you can run it for a vacation, you can put it into Eco Plus and have some saving modes programmed into it.
This has been an overview of the Ecobee Premium Thermostat. For this and any other needs, come check us out at the Johnstone Supply Training Center, where you can get real-world experience for your real-world career.